So thank you everyone for joining. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Katie Friedman and I am the founder of Flexible Working People. And we have a jobs board and a recruitment arm, and obviously the Flexible Working People Facebook community, which is active. And we work with a number of partners, but ultimately what we aim to do is to support people on their flexible working journeys, whether that's moving into part-time employed roles or self-employed or retraining. And Supermums is one of our partners. And we love working with Supermums because what they offer is a route and access to retraining into new careers in tech. Obviously, the world is changing, and we know, we're hearing a lot about AI, and we're sort of future-proofing roles. And so having moving into careers in tech is a really good thing to be doing right now. And I'm really excited to have Helen join. Helen's going to tell her own story. I'm going to introduce her in a moment. But I just really loved Helen's story. And the reason I wanted to bring her in is because I think that she represents somebody who is just somebody who was in our community, who one day opened a newsletter and saw an ad for Supermums or a promotion talking about what they did. And actually, just from opening something that was in her junk folder, I think she says, she'll tell you herself. I think sadly it fell into spam. Still, she's sort of completely changed her path. And Helen will tell you herself her story of going from career break into now having this incredible career, fully remote, earning well. So I'm going to hand over to Helen. I thought what it might be nice, firstly, Helen, if you just introduce yourself and a little bit about sort of your background and what you were doing before you moved and retrained with Supermums.
Sure. If I take it further back, back to 2010, I moved to the UK, had a financial background really back in Sweden. So moved to the UK and didn't really know what to do when I first moved here, but I landed a role in a fintech company as a consultant. So I was supporting clients primarily in Scandinavia, or Scandinavian banks, really, if I have to take it down to that level. And the role involved extensive spreadsheet kind of modeling and coding, and as well as customizing the company's proprietary platform to meet what the client's needs and what they sort of used it for. I did eventually change role within that company after my first maternity leave and joined the training team. So we onboarded new consultants from all over the world. And after my second maternity leave, I really felt that I didn't want to go back to full-time work. I didn't think it was viable with, all the childcare cost. But also I really wanted to be around my children a little bit more because we're still so young.
Yeah.
And at the time, obviously, hybrid working or remote working was sort of unheard of. And this was a few years before COVID happened. But also the nature of my role at the time was also I had to be on site for training because that's what we had classrooms. So we had to do the training on site in front of people. So it didn't lend itself to work from home either, to be fair.
Right.
So me and my partner decided to essentially have me be at home and looking after the children, taking them to school, to nursery and whatnot. And once my youngest started school, I thought that it was time for me to go back to work. So I then took a part-time job for a local business, going back to sort of accounting, so back to finance again.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel that was my calling, but it was something for me to sort of do and sort of a stepping stone back into the job market.
Sure. How long had you been out, Helen?
About 4 years, I believe. Yeah, about 4 years.
And what was it like stepping back in after 4 years? Did you find it hard to get that initial part-time role? Were you where was your confidence about working generally? How are you feeling?
It's quite intimidating because you're sort of out of the loop.
Yeah.
After 4 years in terms of what I used to do, in training. And I felt like that was a fun job and I would like to go back. But then I don't think, as I said, it lends itself to be remote. So I felt like something locally and going back to my roots in accounting was my sort of safe place, I suppose, to start over again.
Sure.
Yeah.
And at what point did you then think, well, you said you're in that role and it was part-time and it was local, but you didn't really feel like it was your calling.
Mm.
So what sort of what were those next steps and what did that look like in terms of you thinking, okay, this doesn't feel right. What am I going to do with my life now?
Yeah.
Because I think there's be lots of people who are listening to this who will be,
Yeah.
you know, in exactly the same space where they're like, I've been out of work for a long time, or you know, I'm just not enjoying what I'm doing anymore. I want to do something different. So
Yeah.
what did that look like for you? Because I think your story will really inspire people.
I think for me, it was, first of all, to look for roles. So a friend of mine did mention flexible working people. So I did sign up for the newsletter, didn't think more of it. But I think for me, it was more trying to find roles that was part-time or remote, really, where I
Yeah,
had transferable skills, not necessarily going back to training or to accounting, but I could see where I had transferable skills. I think that was quite important, and try to sell myself that way on my
sure.
CVs and cover letters. But then obviously, you know, with the newsletter that came through my junk mail, I have a habit of looking through my junk mail. And I saw, as you mentioned earlier, the Supermums, I think it was an advert. I can't remember exactly what it said, but I think the words of like working remote, that you could earn fairly well, but also the technical aspect of it
Yeah,
was quite compelling to me. And I went to Supermum's website after that, and I read, you know, the course material, like what the course would be like, and it really ticked all my boxes in terms of not just, you know, the job prospects, but also the learning aspects of it. It didn't
sure.
feel so intimidating going through a new kind of industry, so learning something different. That I'm, you know, as long as I had that little structure that they seemed to provide, I felt
Yeah.
I could do this, and I could.
How did you go from I'm looking for another job and I want to career pivot into actually maybe I'm going to do training? Because I think that when you're looking for a job, obviously you're getting paid and you're in a job
Mm,
and you were being paid. And so there's that sort of, do I then want to invest? I think everything you're saying, I think people will understand. Like you wanted part-time, you wanted remote, but then this was a training opportunity. So did you then think, is that going to take me out of earning money? And what does that look like? How did that sort of play out for you?
well, I thought it could pivot me into obviously another role with better earnings, so I would see it as an investment in myself.
Yeah,
But what really stood out to me that with that course was the support that you would get as well. So throughout the learning, there was quite a lot of help that they offered throughout the training as well. So you have the training itself, so you had weekly sessions, for example, but you also had like a mentor supporting you as well throughout the like that. I think was 16 weeks, if I remember correctly, of
is
the
that
course.
how long the training was in total?
I think so. I think it was about 16 weeks, and it really helped me in terms of working part-time to be able to put some time to the side for the course.
So were you working while you were doing the Supermums training?
Yes, I was working part-time still, and it really helped with me sort of setting time aside to attend the sessions, to do some homework, to do some project work. It was quite hands-on kind of course,
Yeah,
and I felt that you got the support from not just from the you know, people from at Supermums, but also from the cohort. So you don't start on your own. You have a group of people that are in the same spots as you, trying to, you know, relaunch the career and learn something new. So it was quite nice to have that little community, just to sort of, you know, get some sort of like feedback on how we're doing, but also bounce ideas, feel that you're not alone.
sure.
Mm.
One of the things that you talked about was your transferable skills. I think that's kind of a term that we talk a lot about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everyone's got transferable skills, and what does that mean? And, you know, our company is willing to hire you with transferable skills if you don't have exact experience. So we talk about
Mm-hmm.
that a lot. So I was just interested to explore, you know, obviously you had finance background and you said that you were interested in the technical side, but what were those transferable skills that you felt that you had that lent themselves to this next stage for you?
So if we talk about transferable skills, that there's two sides of it. Obviously, it's like the technical side that, you know, that I've heard, like technical knowledge that I honed back in, you know, doing accounting or even in consulting for the fintech company. So there was lots of coding in Excel, for example. So I felt from a coding perspective, I felt that I would understand Salesforce in this case, because there was some sort of coding as well, but more from like not technical side of things. I think the like analytical side of me does help in my role now as well. Like you try to analyze what the clients need. So it's not necessarily that you need lots of technical skills. You need a little bit of everything really, just to do the analysis of, you know, what clients need, troubleshooting, how do you troubleshoot things, what's the best approach. So I think a lot of the skills, the transferable skills that I had, wasn't necessarily just technical. I think comes from different kind of sort of areas that I've sort of honed throughout in my career, really.
Brilliant. Okay, I'm just going to ask the people listening, can you just type in the chat box, do you all know what Salesforce is? Because I feel like we're talking about it and maybe you're here and you don't know what Salesforce is. So if you do know what it is, type in yes. And if you have absolutely no idea what it is and you're here to find out more about what it is, then type in no. We're going to talk a little bit about what it is, but I'm just interested to know where everybody is with their understanding, and then maybe Helen and I can give you a bit more. So yes, yes. Okay, good. So most people do. So for those people who don't, obviously it's one of the world's largest CRM platforms, and businesses use it to manage customer sales operations. And there's a massive demand for skilled professionals to manage CRMs within organizations, and that's why there's so many opportunities. And for those of you who don't know in much about Supermums, obviously they're a training provider and they offer different paths that help parents, and not anyone really, they say parents, mums, but anyone who wants to retrain into a career in Salesforce. And there's a number of different paths, aren't there, Helen,
Yeah.
where so Salesforce will train you into a number of different paths. So there's like an admin Salesforce, there's all sorts of different ones. So Helen, do you want to tell us about the path that you took?
Yeah,
um
sure.
Okay, because I think that, you know, let's hear specifically which path you took to get you to where you are with your transferable skills.
Yeah, yes. So I took the Supermums Admin Course. I think there's two levels of it. One is, I can't remember. One is slightly, I think it's quicker, like a speedy one. And then the one I took was sort of like stretched out for longer, but also it came with the mentoring, but also at the end of the training, you do get a little project with an actual charity. So you work pro bono with a charity and actually do some sort of editing or of their CRM system, essentially.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you did the admin course, and at
Yeah.
the end of that course, I also know that when you work with Supermums, you train with Supermums, they also have a recruitment arm. So they can
Yeah.
help you to then find a job within Salesforce ecosystem.
Yes.
In your case, I'm not sure that they did, but you found yourself a job. So you went through this 16-week training, you came out the other side, and then
Yeah.
what sort of jobs were you looking for at that point?
So I did try for sort of junior Salesforce admin roles. I don't think at the time the job market was that good. So I started to look at other roles that did involve Salesforce. So if you don't work as a Salesforce administrator straight away, there are actually other roles where you will be exposed to Salesforce as well. So you could be like an end user of Salesforce. And I found a role within a charity to work as a database officer in the fundraising team. So it was more on the end user side of things. So you don't actually, as an end user, you don't really like do any development of the CRM system. But I was quite lucky that I did have access to do that. So together with the actual admin, I was able to do certain projects that was required of me that the fundraising manager wanted to develop. So I did have exposure to Salesforce in terms of like actually doing the admin stuff, despite being technically an end user.
And the training that you had specifically helped you and enabled you to move into that role?
Yes, it did give me an extra edge in terms of finding that role. But also I had, as I mentioned earlier, other transferable skills that also fit the role, that fit the sort of the role as well.
So, my understanding is that you don't need to have a technical background at all to join, do one of these trainings, and you learn the skills. In your
Yeah,
case, you did, but
yeah,
is that the case that you can? There are plenty of routes that you can go down without having a technical background.
definitely. I mean, even if you wanted to go the technical route, I don't think it would. I don't think it would stop anyone that hasn't got a technical
Yeah,
background, because everything is structured in a way for you to learn the very basics, and then it builds up. And there was lots of people within my cohort that didn't have a technical background, so they were doing, they did struggle with certain things, but in the end they did learn it. But there are other routes that are non-technical, I suppose. You could become a Salesforce consultant, or you could do business analysis as well. So doing the analysis for an organization and see where you can do the improvements. So it doesn't need to be a technical role if you want to join the Salesforce ecosystem.
yeah. And as I said, I know that I've done plenty of these, had many of these conversations with Heather, who runs
Mm.
Supermums, but they do really support people in then finding the job at the end of the road as well. So there's plenty of support
Yeah.
there. And in terms of the training, you said it was about 16 weeks. At the end of that, did you find the job quite quickly?
It took me probably a month or two, I would say. I did finish, so the pro bono work, I did the pro bono work, and I finished that. And I think it took me about a month and a bit to find another role. So within the fundraising team as a database officer, and I stayed there for about, I'd like to say, a year or two. Can't remember exactly. But there, again, it wasn't necessarily the role I wanted to do in the long run. I really enjoyed the non-profit aspects, and I really want to work in a non-profit or within that kind of sphere. But I eventually found another role.
So you moved out of that role into a
Yeah,
new role. So
I moved
what
up.
is that where you are now in the new role?
Yes, exactly. So I'm currently working for a consultancy, Salesforce consultancy, that mainly deals with non-profits. And it was sort of the best of both worlds, I would say, because I really still wanted to have my foot within the non-profit, but also working full time with Salesforce.
Okay. I mean, obviously, it sounds like you're making this sound really easy, and maybe it is. But are there lots of you sort of got a part-time job, you took 4 years out, you kind of went straight back into work, you retrained, you found a job, then you found another job in an ideal area for you. Like you're making it sound really easy. Were there challenges along the way, or was it as easy as you're saying?
Of course, I would say I think the challenges was probably with myself, like the self-doubt, especially when you're looking for roles and thinking I don't have enough experience. I think that was the part I really found tricky, because I did speak to quite a lot of consultants in terms of recruitment consultants,
Yeah.
and time after time it was we need someone that has a little bit more experience.
So how did you get your foot in without the experience?
I think it really helped going through that charity as a fundraise database officer. Really helped, because then I could prove myself that not
So
only.
using some experience you already had to get your foot in the door, and then
Yeah, exactly. The foot in the door, and then, hone a little bit more skills within Salesforce, and then you can then say in in your interviews what you have achieved in those roles or in those those positions. So I
And
think
once
that
you've done, oh, sorry, I interrupted you.
no, you go ahead.
No, once you've done the course, are you sort of out the other side of training, or is there always more training that you can do if you want to go on and develop, further? I know that you went on to do another course.
Yes, I did. I did another course. There's plenty of courses that Supermums offer. I did take a course, but in hindsight, I felt I didn't have enough time to put into it, really. I was in the headspace for it. I was working full time, juggling two children. So I don't think it was the best of time for me. But with someone that's probably has a bit more discipline, that would work. I just don't. So I think it was a very interesting course, but I don't think the timing was right for me. And I think that is
Okay.
really important when you consider taking on some training, that you are in the right headspace and you have the time to set aside for it.
Yeah. Okay, so you're now in that next role, and you've kind of talked about, when you read about it, we do talk about Salesforce roles being well paid and remote and flexible. And I think that's kind of one of the advantages or the key benefits of moving into a tech role.
Yeah.
What does that look like for you now? You've obviously got two kids, and is it fully remote? And most of these types of opportunities fully remote? Like how does that play out for you now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm fully remote at the moment, so that is really nice because it means that I can juggle my time around the children as well. I have a very flexible manager that is happy for me to do that, and he's also very he really trusts us in terms of us doing our job. And even if I take a half day off in the afternoon, I know that I will work those hours another day or spread them out. So I'll just, I'll do that. So I think it's really flexible in terms of how it fits within my life. And I find that's probably the most important thing. And it's more important than the salary itself. It's just having that flexibility, being able to, attend the sports day, for example, and not feel guilty that I'm not working for a couple of hours, but I can do
Yeah.
that, like, spread those extra hours, throughout the week instead.
And in terms of the salary, I mean, obviously we don't talk specifically about what it is,
Mm-hmm.
but are you earning, where you were before when you were in finance and corporate? Are you earning more than you were? Like, how have you stepped up in your salary, or kind of where does that sit?
So because so our organization works with charities, so the salary is not probably as high as someone that is working sort of in the private sector with Salesforce. I don't think I'm at the same level as I was when I was working in the private sector, but with the flexibility, it's I think that is sort of more important to me than I think even if I were to work in the city now, I think I might have earned probably the same, really.
Yeah. I mean, also, you said that you've chosen to go in the charity sector. So I think, that is very different to the private sector. I know that
Yeah.
some of the roles are very well paid if you go
Mm.
into the private sector. And in terms of the cost of the course, did you find that kind of a prohibitive factor, or was that something? How did you go about that investment? I think we talk about investing in ourselves, and I do
Yeah.
think it's really important to do that. I think that we
Yeah.
can't, we can't move on and move forward without support.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people are unwilling to invest in themselves because they can't or they don't want to. So just talk to us a little bit about that piece.
I mean, it's quite a lot of money. I think I paid about £2,000, just over £2,000 for my course. And I understand that it's a big chunk of money to pay in one go. I know that Supermums do offer some sort of payment plan as well, so you can pay off in chunks rather than like one big go. But I feel that I have made that money back and more, and also landed me a role where I don't think I would have had that kind of flexibility anywhere else, really.
Yeah, and I think most of the Salesforce roles are flexible and remote.
Yes, definitely, because everything is done on the cloud, so you're not, and also it's quite a lot of work where you do it on your own. It's on the collaboration side of things, it can be done over calls and, over Zoom. But, the actual work itself is, it's quite, you're doing it on your own a lot of the times, and it definitely can be done from home. Brilliant. As long as you have a connection.
Brilliant. Well, thank you for sharing all of that. I just want to go to the chat and ask if anyone's got any questions for Helen about Supermums or about her experience. Do put them in the chat box, because we're going to come to an end shortly. But I just wanted to say, Helen, what advice might you have to anyone who's considering going down this route regarding, doing the training or going into Salesforce as a career or thinking about Supermums? Like, what advice would you have?
I would say don't be scared, but also make sure that you're in the right headspace and have the time to allocate for it, because it's quite a lot of things to take in terms of if technology is new to you. It's quite a lot of information that you take in on a weekly basis. So I think that it needs to be the right time for you, and don't rush it. Is probably my advice.
Great advice. So Janine's more of a comment and a question. I mean, I think that's really common, Janine. I'll just read it out. But main stumbling block, investing time and money on a course, is the gamble of finding suitable work after. Having recently been made redundant at 52, and job search experience has been really brutal. I totally get that. So I guess the support and your guarantee of work is key. I think that's really understandable. The job market is brutal. I think that tech is a really good area to be moving into right now. And I think that you will have the support from the Supermums team in finding one, but there's obviously no guarantees to that. But I think you've got to take the gamble in life with these types of things, and believe that if you do the work and you've retrained, it gives you a really good leverage into getting the roles. And Supermums do this all the time. And we've had so many different examples and case studies of people who have made that change. So I think probably the best thing for you to do, if those are your concerns, are talk to Supermums or talk to people who have done it, who are in a similar situation to you, and try and get that reassurance that it is possible. Because I think that we feel after a brutal job search, it's not possible. Sally says, I'm in a similar situation to Janine. Would be useful to know how much time you need to allow for the course. Helen, how much time did you need to allow? Because obviously you said that you were working part-time.
Yeah. So there's about, I can't remember how long the weekly meetings are, but they're about, I'd like to say maybe 2 hours. So the course is probably about 2 hours or 3 hours a week. And then you need to leave some time for doing some project work, which I probably would say could take about an hour to a week as well, over a course of, I would like to say 16 weeks, but we had Christmas in between as well, so probably just less.
So about 3 hours a week, 3 or 4 hours a week?
3-4 hours a week you probably need that kind of time to sort of do the actual work, because I think there's the project work that you need to do, and that part takes quite a lot of time to sort of understand how it all works.
Okay, brilliant. And in hindsight, now looking back, is that the best thing that you could have done for yourself? Are you happy with where you've landed?
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Brilliant. And I will say that, the fact that you came through Flexible Working People makes me very happy, because I don't always hear the good end stories. And actually, I didn't know about your story until I was talking to Heather and said, is there anyone who's done it? So it's just so nice to hear, because we work really hard to find these opportunities and to partner with the right people. And we know that Supermums does great things and lots of people retrain, but it's just amazing to have an actual real life person here telling us that, one day you opened a newsletter and saw it, and now you're in a remote, flexible role, which enables you to balance your career with your family life, which is everything that you wanted, using your transferable skills. So, I mean, that's been really inspiring for me to hear. It makes me feel good about continuing what we do. And I'm sure lots of people listening as well, are inspired that maybe, this could be the right opportunity for them. Are there any other questions? Can you work evenings and weekends as well as part of the flexibility, or does that depend on the company?
For me, don't think my manager would like me to work in the weekend, but I could definitely do that if I felt like I can't work on a Friday, for example. Let's say some random Friday I can't work, I might do it on a Saturday instead. So it's quite flexible in terms of my company I work for.
Yeah, I think that will vary company to company.
Mm-hmm.
Some companies will want you to work weekdays, and others will be like asynchronous. Asynchronous, is that the right word? Where you can do your work whenever, as long as it gets done. So I think that
Yeah.
depends. Okay, brilliant. So it doesn't look like there's any more questions. If anyone wants to reach out directly to Helen, I'm sure she'd be happy to answer any questions. What we'll do is tomorrow we'll send out a link to the replay of this, and we'll put some links in to Supermums, how you can reach them to set up a call if you're interested in finding out more, or you can head to our website. There are links there, or there will be links. Obviously, if you just look up Supermums, there'll be lots of set up a call, have a chat. They're a really lovely, friendly bunch, and they also are doing this new training, which you might be interested in, which is about using AI in the workplace. So that's literally just been launched this week. We just put it in tonight's newsletter. So Supermums are helping people to train in AI and how you use AI at work. So if you are interested in that, check out the newsletter that landed tonight, and there'll be a link through to sign up for their AI at work training course, which looks brilliant. So Helen, I'm just going to say thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I think everyone's found that really interesting. We've got some really lovely comments, and it's just really good to hear a real life story of someone who's done it. So it's brilliant to have had you on. So thank you so much for taking the time. And everyone, thank you for joining this evening, and I wish you all a lovely rest of your evening.
Thanks for having me, Katie.
Thanks so much. Bye everyone. Thanks for joining.
Thank you. Bye.